Imagine this. Every single bite you take, every walk you choose, every thought you entertain, it's actively shaping not just your own life, right? But the very future of our planet. What if the secrets to truly sustainable health are hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be unlocked by how we eat, move, and even think?
It's a powerful idea, isn't it? And deeply intertwined. That our daily habits, even something as simple as grabbing lunch, they have these incredible ripple effects. Effects that go way beyond us, reaching into our communities, even, global ecosystems.
Absolutely. And that interconnectedness is exactly what we're getting into today. This deep dive is your personalized shortcut, sort of your guide to understanding how health is so much more than just not being sick. We're going to try and untangle this intricate web, our food, our lifestyle choices, the environments we live in, and even our psychological well-being. Our mission, to pull out the most crucial, maybe surprising insights from a whole stack of research, everything from global urban food patterns to the hidden impacts of our daily habits, all designed to equip you with a powerful awareness and hopefully some actionable steps for a genuinely healthy and happy future, starting, really, with your next meal.
And to do that, we've pulled from a really fascinating collection of cutting-edge research and pretty comprehensive global surveys. We're looking at everything from the big picture, like the Sustainable Development Goals, right down to specific case studies, think food safety in African cities, health trends among Indian adolescents, and even the surprise link between, believe it or not, spirituality and well-being. It's a truly global, multifaceted lens we're using.
Okay, let's really unpack this then, because it challenges our usual thinking, doesn't it? We often just think about health physically. Am I ill? No. Okay, I'm healthy. But the sources we're looking at paint a much richer, much more complex picture. Health isn't just the absence of disease. It's this complex tapestry of physical, mental, emotional, social, even spiritual well-being. It's holistic. So what does that bigger definition really mean for how we approach things?
Well, what's interesting is how this broader view makes the whole health system seem incredibly complex, much more layered, and maybe, at first glance, harder to tackle. It's like trying to untangle a massive fishing net. You can't just pull one thread. You need to understand how each knot, each individual choice, each micro-level interaction fits into the bigger picture. So to really solve global health challenges, we need more than just broad strokes. We need this micro-level systems analysis, as the research puts it, looking at individual choices within these bigger societal contexts and figuring out how that scales up.
When we talk about sustainable health, it's not a quick fix, not a temporary band-aid. It's about building something that lasts. Sources define it as ensuring a healthy population, but at a reasonable cost, accessible to everyone. But here's the key part, the sustainable part. Doing it without wrecking our natural resources or causing ecological damage. It's not just about doctors and hospitals. It emphasizes affordable, high-quality care, sure, but also robust public health services, continuous research, from teaching to actually providing care. It's a long-term integrated vision, thinking generations ahead.
And this whole idea, this pursuit of sustainable health, it doesn't exist in a bubble. It ties directly into several key UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Take SDG 2, zero hunger. It's fundamentally linked. Ending hunger, achieving food security, improving nutrition, promoting sustainable agriculture. It's all in there. What's insightful is how SDG 2 itself recognizes it depends on other things, uplifting small farmers, gender equality, ending rural poverty, healthy lifestyles, even tackling climate change. It's all connected.
And here's where it gets really fascinating on that specific goal. Our sources say achieving SDG 2, ending hunger, ensuring nutritious food for all by 2030, they say it's doable. But, and it's a big but, it needs a massive coordinated global effort. We're talking boosting farm output sustainably, strengthening supply chains, cutting food waste, and guaranteeing access for everyone. It's not just about more food, it's smarter food production, using land, soil, water wisely, preserving genetic resources, a whole planetary approach.
Exactly. Beyond food, SDG 3, good health and well-being, is obviously central to our chat today, ensuring healthy lives for all ages. But then you have others that might seem less direct, but are crucial foundations. SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. Our sources stress how vital this is for nutrition and long-term health. I mean, think about it, without clean water, efforts in nutrition can just fall apart, right?
Absolutely. It's foundational. And the connections keep going. SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, making cities inclusive, safe, resilient, sustainable. Healthy people need healthy places. And finally, SDG 17, partnerships for the goals. This underlines that nobody can do this alone. Collaboration across all sectors, public, private, civil society. It highlights local governments, actually, as being in a unique leadership spot to make these global goals real on the ground. It shows that everything's linked, from the UN down to our neighborhoods. Okay, let's zoom right in now. Something incredibly personal we deal with daily, what we eat. Our plates are like tiny reflections of huge global trends, especially urbanization. Half the world lives in cities now, right? Projected to be 75% by 2050. That's huge. And this rapid shift, especially in places like sub-Saharan Africa, like Douala and Cameroon, which our sources looked at, it's completely changed food habits, food diversity.
Yeah, this move to cities has fueled this massive street food economy. In Douala, the research showed almost everyone eats food both at home and outside. And get this figure, street food makes up 47% of food expenses there. 47%. For many, especially lower-income groups, it's not just convenient, it's essential. Affordable access to local stuff, nutritional supplements they might not get otherwise, it's a lifeline.
But, and here's the massive but, the hidden danger. microbial contamination. The research found something pretty alarming. Pathogenic microbial contamination was consistently beyond recommended safety standards in all the food and drinks they tested into all of them. We're talking nasty stuff. Bacteria like E. coli, nearly a quarter of samples. Staphylococcus, aureus, salmonella, and not just bacteria viruses like hepatitis A, norovirus, even parasites like Giardia, Cryptosporidium, Entomoeba. It's a direct health threat right there on the street.
And the sources of this contamination. Unfortunately, they're common, often preventable things. Things like, well, unwashed hands of food handlers who might be sick, contaminated cutting boards, knives, not cooking things odd enough, just a general lack of sanitation and handling and storage, even coughing or sneezing near food. Plus, the practice of keeping leftovers out for days. It's a breeding ground. What's really concerning is even popular local drinks like Cossum and Full had huge amounts of microbes, hundreds of thousands per milliliter on average, way above safe levels.
So what's the bigger picture here for health in these fast-growing cities? Our sources talk about a nutrition transition. Traditional diets, often high in fiber, are getting swapped out for diets high in fat, sugar, processed foods. This makes city dwellers vulnerable not just to those immediate infections from bad food, but also to chronic problems, the so-called civilization diseases. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, it's a double whammy. Urban convenience bringing new complex risks.
Now, if we shift focus to India, it faces its own really complex challenge, a triple burden of disease. Communicable, non-communicable, and infectious diseases all at once. What's striking is this shift they've seen. Between 1990 and 2016, the burden from communicable, maternal, neonatal, nutritional diseases dropped significantly, from 61% down to 33%. That's progress. But in the same period, non-communicable diseases, those lifestyle ones, surged from 30% up to 55%. It's a huge shift. It shows that as some threats recede, others, maybe more insidious ones, are rising fast, demanding totally different public health strategies.
And drilling down into child nutrition, the numbers from India's 2015-16 National Family Health Survey, NFHS4, are really quite stark. 38% of kids under 5 stunted too short for their age, 36% underweight, and over half of Indian women were anemic. That has huge knock-on effects. Globally, it's a mixed bag too. 149 million kids stunted, 45 million wasted, but also nearly 39 million overweight or obese, a global imbalance.
What influences this in India? Several key things come up in the research. Mother's education is critical. It links to better feeding knowledge, hygiene, maternal nutrition itself, socioeconomic status, access to sanitation. These are all big factors. Interestingly, though, the sources noted a gap. While domestic violence is known to harm physical and psychological health, there's not much specific data linking it directly to child malnutrition, something needing more research.
Okay, this leads us to where generations and socioeconomics really collide over diet. Think about adolescent girls in Delhi, 15 to 19-year-olds. That's such a crucial time for development, physical, biological, psychological. Habits formed then can last a lifetime. An unhealthy lifestyle, poor diet, inactivity, substance use can really impact their future health.
And looking at their diets, the data is interesting. Girls who regularly ate dessert had a significantly higher average BMI, 21.1 versus 19.9 for those who didn't. Fast food intake didn't show a statistically significant difference in the average BMI for the whole group. Those who ate it did still have a slightly higher mean. What's really powerful here are the influences, peer pressure, absolutely, but also social media following role models from films, TV. It shapes their mindset, their behavior, health, lifestyle. You get this real collision between, say, traditional home-cooked meals and these modern influences pushing convenience, certain aesthetics.
And it's not just cities. Look at tribal communities in India. Lower income consistently means lower health status. That seems clear. Education helps with nutrition knowledge, but not as much as occupation or income level. And here's a striking detail. Tobacco use significantly impacts BMI. It often leads to eating less, especially among educated women who, maybe ironically, want to stay thin and use tobacco to suppress appetite. It's complex. And for men, daily alcohol, often locally made Iraq, is common, affecting over 30%, leading to serious stuff like liver cirrhosis.
What's really tough is, even if these communities know about basic nutrition, like the benefits of milk, actually consuming it daily is often impossible. Why? Severe economic limits and just lack of availability in remote areas. So it's not just about knowing what's healthy. It shows this deep interplay between awareness, cultural habits, and just harsh economic reality. Access and affordability are huge barriers.
So for you listening, thinking about your next meal, here's something actionable. A way to turn this awareness into something real. Be really mindful about where your food comes from, especially street food or informal vendors. Ask yourself, where did it come from? How was it handled? Is it actually fresh? Realize your choices aren't just about hunger. It's convenience, social trends, subconscious nudges, cultural habits. It's a mix. So next time you eat, just pause. Think not just what you're eating, but where it came from, how it got there. That awareness is a powerful first step. Okay, let's widen the lens again. Beyond our plates, to the environment around our food, from the farm to the table and everything in between. There's this promising idea called peri-urban agriculture, farming right on the edges of cities, a transition zone.
Yeah, and the benefits are pretty amazing, according to the research. It's not just about growing food. It supplies fresh, nutritious food locally, cutting down travel, creates jobs, can even recycle urban waste into fertilizer, creates green belts, boosts climate resilience with local food sources, directly helps meet those UN SDGs we talked about. It really does sound like a win-win.
But there's always a but, isn't there? The challenge, especially in places like the Delhi Central NCR region in India, is rapid urban sprawl just eating up farmland. It puts huge pressure on this peri-urban farming. Even if they grow high-value crops, the sheer density of people, land being bought up for development, shrinking farm areas. It means these areas are becoming food deficient in terms of calories produced per person. The sad reality, many farmers are quitting, or just farming enough to survive, because they can't compete with the city expanding.
That pressure, though, has ironically sparked something else, this global boom in urban gardening. creating totally new food spaces right inside cities. You see them popping up everywhere. Temporary uses of vacant lots, like in Berlin or Rome. Rooftop gardens, balcony gardens, like in Tokyo. And these are usually grassroots things, citizen-led, people finding solutions themselves.
And what's really cool is they're more than just gardens. They become these food spaces tied to health-conscious city life. They build community, help neighbors connect, create a sense of place, even spur political engagement around green spaces. They're catalysts for community activities, shaping new ways to live in cities. And think about the pandemic lockdowns, interest surged. Rome saw a 30% jump in requests for garden plots, half from young people. It shows how vital these outdoor spaces are for well-being.
Connecting this back to food access generally, you see how vital informal markets are, like those fresh fruit and vegetable shops, FAVS, in Birnin Kebbi, Nigeria. They're technically informal land use, but absolutely crucial for daily food for so many families. Yet their management, spatially and administratively, is often poor, which creates problems.
Yeah, and that poor management leads to a big access gap. Our sources found that even if there are more of these shops in dense areas, maybe because people buy small amounts, often only about 5% of residents can actually walk to one in 5-10 minutes. That leaves out a huge number of people, forcing them to travel further or rely on less healthy options.
And it's not just access. There are real quality and safety worries. Around 75% of people surveyed said the produce from these shops looked smaller or off by the time they bought it, signs of spoilage. Plus, 95% complained about higher prices than formal markets. And lack of variety, poor handling. But here's the really critical health point. The stuff sold in these FAVS and lots of informal stores, it's not checked for safety by the health department. That lack of oversight is a major environmental health risk for people relying on these unregulated sources daily.
Okay, so another actionable point for you. Thinking about your next meal, influencing the environment around you. Support local and peri-urban agriculture when you can. When buying produce, ask, is it local? Does it look truly fresh? Does the place seem hygienic? Demand transparency. And advocate for better regulation of informal food sources in your community. Ensure safety and quality for everyone. Your choices, your voice, they add up. All right, let's dive deeper now. Beyond the physical, beyond the environment, into that profound mind-body connection, the psychological, the social dimensions of health. Our sources talk about an integrated enviro-psychological approach, saying our health is shaped by internal factors, genetics, gut bugs, neurotransmitters, immune system, personality, age, sex, and equally powerful external factors.
Right. Those external factors are broad. Climate change, yes, but also local air, water, food quality. And critically, our psychosocial conditions, chronic stress, feeling isolated, difficult relationships, the political climate we live in. What's key is how they connect. Psychological stress isn't just in your head. It can directly cause physical and mental illness through neuroendocrine responses. It shows this deep, undeniable link. Thoughts, environment, physical health, they're all integrated. Mind and body are one system.
And here's a really powerful insight from that view, one that goes beyond just us. The research highlights how a mother's internal environment, her stress, nutrition, her whole lifestyle impacts her child's health trajectory. And it's not just the mother. The well-being of both parents influences their children's health. It's a generational thing, starting with individual choices and conditions.
This holistic view also shines a light on spirituality, something often overlooked but increasingly seen as vital for sustainable mental health. And importantly, the research distinguishes this from just religious observance. It's about deeper meaning and connection. Studies consistently show a negative link between spirituality and things like anxiety, depression, suicide risk. It seems to act as a protective factor.
So it's less about dogma, more about purpose, like the research on IT professionals you mentioned. That sounds fascinating.
Exactly. For them, a high sense of spirituality defined as finding meaning, self-discovery, purpose in helping the community, loyalty, ethics, awareness was seen as a key personal competence. And this linked directly to being more involved at work, happier personally, and having more resilient mental health. It's about an inner strength built on purpose.
That makes sense. The practical side is pretty powerful then.
It is. Spirituality, defined this way, can foster courage, satisfaction, empathy, patience, all signs of good mental health. It suggests maybe organizations could even help foster this, perhaps through training, recognizing the tangible benefits for well-being and resilience.
But we also need to look at the shadow side, stigma, especially around conditions like HIV/AIDS. It's a huge global barrier to effective response. The impacts are devastating. Abandonment, social isolation, job loss, being kicked out of school. India, with 2.3 million people living with HIV, feels this very acutely.
And it's not just one kind of stigma, is it? The research breaks it down. There's self-stigma, feeling inferior yourself, felt stigma, worrying about how others see you, enacted stigma, actual discrimination, courtesy stigma, affecting family and friends just by association, and layered stigma, where HIV stigma piles on top of other inequalities like gender or poverty. It's crushing.
On the media's role. You mentioned that earlier. How does that play into it?
Often quite negatively, unfortunately. The sources point out that Indian media sometimes covers HIV/AIDS casually, perpetuating stereotypes: sick, dying, promiscuous, focusing on sensational angles rather than accuracy or empathy. It just reinforces the problem, makes it harder for people.
So how do you fight that? What interventions work?
Two key things came up: entertainment education, using media-like dramas to subtly shift perceptions, and maybe most importantly, one-to-one counseling. For people living with HIV, their families, communities, it helps reduce self-stigma, busts myths, and crucially instills hope. It's about compassionate, direct communication to change those narratives.
This clash between modern medicine and traditional beliefs, it happens elsewhere too, right? Like the study on erectile dysfunction in Nigeria, a decol, they call it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's a big issue there. Prevalence over 57%. And beyond the causes, Western medicine looks at smoking, drugs, psychological factors. Local beliefs point to things like Jada Jedi, linking it to hemorrhoids from too much sugary or starchy food, or Iri Inu, excess dirt from those foods. It shows how deeply diet and perceived purity are linked to health in that cultural context.
And the spiritual angle, that it can be caused by bewitchment,
Yes, a strong belief exists that it can be spiritually induced, maybe by a scorned wife. It really highlights this collision between scientific understanding and deeply rooted cultural, sometimes mystical, beliefs about illness. It's not just physical for many people.
The treatments must be totally different too.
Absolutely. Western medicine, exams, blood tests, maybe Doppler scans, counseling, drugs like Viagra, surgery. Traditional practitioners, they might ask about Jedi, check for morning erections. Treatment often involves specific local herbs, Iguro, Efinrin, Agunmu, taken with food restrictions, especially avoiding starchy foods. And trust in traditional medicine is incredibly high there, leading to efforts to regulate and integrate it. It shows the power of these cultural frameworks.
So reflecting on your next meal again, maybe the takeaway here is broader. Your well-being isn't just physical. It's mental, emotional, maybe even spiritual. Think how food affects your energy, your clarity. Does that sugary snack really help focus or lead to a crash? And be aware of cultural narratives, the stories around us, how they subtly shape your health views. It's about context and meaning, not just nutrients. Okay, we've covered so much. Let's bring it together now. Moving towards action in our lives and in policy. Transforming cities for active living. This idea of a healthy city. Instilling physical activity as a lifelong habit for everyone. Crucial for life expectancy and healthy life years.
And cities need the right infrastructure for that. Bike sharing systems, BSS, are a great example. Short-term rentals, stations, or dockless. Good for short trips. In Warsaw, popular with students for commutes, getting around, may be seen as lower status sometimes, but it's part of that showing economy benefit. And then outdoor gyms, OGs, free public equipment in parks, resistance training, all sorts of exercises. Designed for all ages, really. Usage varies. One Canadian study showed low rates, but another found 26% of locals use them monthly. So awareness is. In Warsaw, they were well used for exercise and socializing, though maybe not quite a central social hub yet.
And why do these things matter so much?
Well, they directly promote physical activity, obviously. They contribute to those healthy city goals, SDG 11, and they can spur public-private partnerships like SDG 17 suggests. Corporate logos on bikes funding the system, for instance. It's a smart way to blend health initiatives with urban planning, economic development, a virtuous cycle.
Now, let's look at policy itself. India's history is fascinating here. Care goes way back, like King Asoka providing water, shelter. And the modern constitution has provisions for health, nutrition, environment, fundamental rights, directive principles.
Yeah, Article 47 on nutrition and public health, Article 48 on environment, strong foundations. But policy evolution has been mixed. Early plans tackled epidemics like malaria, smallpox. Partial success, but rural-urban gaps grew. Later plans focused on access, family planning maybe sometimes too narrowly. Then privatization started creeping in, now described as taking an uncontrolled shape.
But there have been recent efforts too.
Oh yes, important ones. Swachh Bharat mission for sanitation, AMRIT for lowering NCD treatment costs, Ayushman Bharat Yojana for health cover for the poor, Poshan Abhiyan for nutrition. But huge challenges remain. Public healthcare is still inadequate. Private hospitals dominate 58% of hospitals, but 81% of doctors. Public hospitals have only 19% of doctors. It creates huge access issues, deepens disparities. Plus, doctors migrating from developing to developed countries makes resource shortages even worse. It's a massive.
Okay, so after this whole journey, from microbes to meaning, let's make it super practical. An actionable plan for you, starting, again, with your next meal. First, source your food mindfully. Local produce, if possible, fresher, lower impact. If buying informally, remember the risks. Eat quickly or store safely.
Second, read labels on packaged foods. Understand the ingredients. Look for fortified options if that's relevant where you are, like in India where it combats deficiencies. Knowledge is power.
Third, portion control and balance. Listen to your body's hunger signals. Balance carbs, proteins, fats. Eat the rainbow variety is key. And fourth, mindful eating. Fewer distractions like screens. Really taste and enjoy your food. It helps your psychological well-being.
Be on the plate, make sustainable lifestyle choices. Walk, cycle, use public transport more. Check out those outdoor gyms or bike shares. Every active choice counts.
Engage with your community. Look for urban gardens. Maybe start one. Support local food systems like farmers markets. It builds resilience, connection.
Prioritize mental well-being just as much. Seek meaning in your daily life, like we discussed with spirituality. Practice self-care, manage stress. Remember its physical impact. Be critical of media influence on body image and lifestyle.
And finally, be an advocate. Understand local health policies. Speak up for better public health infrastructure, stronger food safety rules, and fair healthcare access for everyone in your community. Your voice matters.
So we've gone from microbes on a plate to meaning in life. But here's the final thought to chew on. If health truly reflects our collective choices, what we eat, how we move, what we believe, then what does your next choice, your next meal, your next step say about the future you're building? Not just for you, but for everyone around you.